Welcome to the Homeschool Dad Podcast. This is our second season, or our return from quite a long hiatus. And this is one of the first interviews we've done this season. Don't know exactly when it's going to come out, but I'm excited to introduce a father of three. Lives on the opposite side of the country from me. We grew up close. This is my cousin. I'd like to introduce you, Tom.
Howdy.
So to give you a little bit of an idea who Tom is, a father of three, married to a beautiful woman who's way smarter than he is. It's a blended family. He stays home and does the home stuff while his wife is an outside the home earner, which is a little bit unique. And they homeschooled during COVID and are not currently homeschooling, but I would definitely want to hear a little bit about his take on the importance of parenting, importance of experiencing new things and not learning from a textbook, by learning from your hands. So with that as a kind of a starting point, why don't you tell me a little, you don't have to tell names. I mean, this is such a big podcast, everybody's going to see it, so we want to keep your anonymity.
That's fair.
Tell me a little bit about your family. What's the family dynamic? As I've already mentioned that you're a stay-at-home guy. Tell us just what's your family dynamic look like right now? How old are your kids? What are they currently into? Just give us a little snapshot.
So my oldest boy will be 15 later this month, which is terrifying. My middle boy is 6, and the baby will turn 5 at the end of this month. So decent spread.
Sure.
Definitely unique pockets of childhood, different needs for each kid.
All boys.
All boys.
All boys. Okay.
I don't know how to operate little girls. They scare me.
Okay. And then what does a typical day look like for you? I know you're dealing with some puppies right now, so it's maybe unique, but what's just a kind of a standard day look like for your family?
So we live in a town called Chehalis, which is about an hour to an hour and a half south of Seattle. My wife works in Tacoma, which is in between the two. And so she is getting up in the 5 o'clock hour a lot of times, or she sleeps in the early 6 o'clock hour, and she's trying to be out the door by 6:15. If she's out the door by 6:30, she's going to hit a whole bunch of traffic and all that. So our days start a little bit earlier than probably either one of us would typically shoot for. But then, once she's up and going and all that, guilt kicks in. And so I go ahead and get up, and I have leeway in between when I wake up in the morning and when demands start. And so I try to get ahead of that, either breakfast or tidying up or whatever the case is. And then 7:30, 7:45, it's time to start doing stuff. I try to feed all my animals around 8 o'clock. Most that's for the wintertime where we live. I try to keep everything locked up a little bit later into the morning. And so I just try to keep that same pattern all year. But we do breakfast and see who wakes up and all that kind of thing. It's summertime right now, so I'm letting them sleep as much as I can stand it. But usually by mid-morning, everybody's awake. I have to make 3 different breakfasts because everybody wakes up at different times or wants different stuff. And usually by the time the morning routine's done, it's noon already. And it's a lot of stuff's happened by then. But we don't usually do lunchtime at lunchtime. We usually end up eating breakfast by mid-morning, and then we eat lunch at 1. And then we like to eat dinner. Like, all the boys get hungry at the same time. Is how my wife has one schedule, and then all the boys are hungry at the same time. When if I can feed them something before she gets home, then it means I get more evening with my wife. Mm-hmm. And then other times she's cooking dinner or whatever when she gets home. With school, it's me and Wado until the boys get off the bus. Like 3 o'clock, we're trying to make sure we're done with whatever errands and getting back home and that kind of thing to get the kids home. And then honestly, I try to make them do something every day in the yard just so we're making progress, because everything's falling apart constantly. So you got to try to put it back together constantly. And then we just kind of hang out. Like, our favorite part of the day, or at least my favorite part of the day, is in the evening after everything's done, everybody's fed and all that, and we get to hang out on the porch, and the kids will just be running around being crazy, and I get to hang out with my wife and watch the chickens do stupid stuff and all that.
Okay, and then typically, since you guys are getting up pretty early, what's typically winding down? Everybody's in bed.
Oh, we're the worst. So we're up early, and then if we go to bed before 11, we're doing good.
Okay.
I don't know, sleep is optional. You just figure that out.
You got the teenager and then the little boys. Is there a difference in their schedule in that way? Is there any kind of...
I will try to get the younger guys down earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Derek, the oldest, is pretty independent, and I don't know the last time I told him to go to bed. He'll finish his dishes and stuff, and he'll disappear. But the little guys, like, I try to get them in bed, sometime around 9. But a lot of times I don't look up from what we're doing until 9:45. Like, oh, we gotta do showers and everything, and then it ends up being 10:30.
Yeah. Okay. So as that snapshot of what a typical day looks like, you have kind of a rhythm in the summer. Now, we talked before this that during COVID, you actively homeschooled, and then there's a little while in your childhood that you were homeschooled. Mm-hmm. What's your philosophy or your perspective on homeschooling in general?
When did public education come into being? Sometime in the 20th century?
Late 1800s, I think. But yeah.
I mean, there was versions of, everybody goes to the schoolhouse, or everybody goes to the church, and somebody does some teaching. For time immemorial, in tribal situations, the kids would go, and one of the elders or something would do it. Kids have to learn, and they want to learn, and I think it's important to feed that. The homeschooling thing, it's never been a question of whether or not it's better for the kids. It's a matter of, is it doable for the parent? Is there a way to make a living and exist and be a teacher, take on another career? So I think it's hard, and I tip my hat to everybody who, all of y'all have been doing it for a long time. And your kids are great. There's proof in the pudding as far as... And I saw this when I was going through school. We'd always have the 1 or 2 homeschool kids that would play on the sports teams or whatever.
The weirdos.
Well, they were weird, but they were also dynamic. They were, they had so much more substance than, and not everybody, but a lot of them, an overwhelming majority of the homeschool kids that we interacted with in the public school system, yeah, they'd be weird, maybe a little awkward socially or whatever, but not always. But they always had more depth. And, the public school system is supposed to socialize us and teach us all this stuff and make us good employees or whatever. But, we're making good employees. What about making people, or making good humans? Yeah. I don't see that. You get what the parents have done at home in the public school system. The kids certainly do some directing themselves, and they will kind of self-correct some behaviors. And I think these younger generations are doing a better job of that. I talked about it with your kids lately, or yesterday, with Selby, that I feel like her generation, they're not putting up with bullying and stuff like that. Like, that's not cool. They're wiser about some stuff than I think, my generation was.
So I'll circle back a little bit on your experience of homeschoolers while you were in public school. I can think about my experience, like what my perception was of homeschoolers back when I was in school 25 years ago. And I remember them being like, there's the kid who acted weird or looked weird or dressed weird. Or maybe now I can say dressed or acted non-compliant. And I thought, oh, that kid's weird. Now looking back, I can say, no, they weren't weird. They were just them. They were themselves. They hadn't fit themselves into the mold of the social expectation of being with a group of kids exactly their same age for most of the day, every week.
Well, you see that there's kids in public school that are still like that, that they're in 2nd grade and they have their shirt tucked in, and, they're wearing their belt and they're wearing their Wranglers and all that, because that's what their dad does. And that's what their grandpa does. And that's their...
But how long does it take to condition that out? And I say that because I heard recently someone was talking about And just to be clear, I know that your kids are going to public school. I'm not trying to crap on that.
No, I understand that public school is not the best option. It's not best practice. It's most common practice. That's all.
Yeah, for sure. So I was going to go on a rant, but there's no need for that. So talk to me a little bit about when COVID came through and you had to homeschool because that was the only option.
They were doing virtual school, but it was such a joke. It's already the Prussian model, but the Prussian model doesn't work if you don't have everybody in a classroom where you have them in control. So yeah, it was just, I saw the lack of education occurring, and I don't like stupid people. And I don't want my kids to grow up and be stupid people.
Sure.
And so we just were trying to figure out a way to continue to educate him through the pandemic.
Let's go with that. So if the pandemic, and I think this is the case with a lot of people listening to this probably started homeschooling during the pandemic or after the pandemic, once the educational system was exposed to them. Like they were exposed to the idea like, wait, this is what you guys are learning? Wait, this is what they're teaching you?
Oh yeah, well, yeah, because exactly, we'd see on the virtual like,
wait, doing what?
That's it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
and then
absolutely.
you realize there's a deficit, so you had to compensate for that. Essentially, that's all homeschooling is. We're compensating for if you're going to a public school or a private school and you think it's inadequate, you're compensating at home. You mentioned a second ago, it's all about what the parents are doing at home anyway. So let's talk a little bit about that. From your perspective, what are some of the critical things that all fathers should have on maybe their checklist for compensating for the education of their children? What makes the top 3 list for you of what's most important to teach your boys?
What are we most disappointed in our men as adults?
Okay.
Ask, your wife, your daughters, your female friends, family members, if you can stomach it, where men are falling short. There's been an attack on masculinity. I think some of that is absolutely warranted because I think so many males have claimed masculinity to do terrible stuff, to just be a jerk. And so one of the big things with my boys that we talk about a lot is don't be rude on accident. If you're going to be rude to somebody, make sure you're doing it on purpose. Like, pay attention to what you're saying, how you're acting, how you're interacting. Use your please and thank yous. Because when it's time for you not to be polite, they should be able to tell the difference.
Okay, let's pause on that for a second. Don't be rude on accident. I like it. Don't be rude on accident. So, and then you listed out some etiquette.
Yeah, basic
stuff.
etiquette,
Why is it important for that distinction to be made? If you're going to be rude to someone, the person you're being rude to, why do they need to know that you're doing it on purpose and it's not accidental?
If you're rude to somebody as a human being, it should be a corrective measure. Like, it's
the other person's behavior.
Yeah, somebody has passed a boundary and it's now time for you to set decorum aside and realign the situation. At least that's the way I look at it.
Okay.
If I want to talk to your manager, it's not because things are going great.
Why not, right? Why not?
I'd like to talk to your manager. How are they doing?
This guy's so good.
I brought you a cookie.
So great.
We should do that. Start being nice to managers.
Start doing that.
The counter Karen movement.
Yeah.
I think we've been taught in society that men are supposed to be passive and kind of inert. Not all society, but recently. As there's trying to be a correction between far right and far left and all that nonsense, it's really hard, I think, for especially a young man, to figure out where your place is. I believe it's our job as men to be of service. Men that are not of service cause problems.
Okay, so first thing, don't be rude by accident. Second thing, be of service. Like, flesh that out for me.
If I ask my boys to do something, I don't want to do that. Like, look, I understand that you don't want to do that, but we've all got something going on and it needs to get done. And I would really appreciate your help. and we need your help. You're an important part of this thing. You're not on the fringes. You're involved in it, and we need you as part of it. If they're not helping me do something that's productive, they're playing a video game or they're beating the crap out of each other. So it's literally, if they're not being of use, idle hands, the devil's plaything. So I think that's true of males of all ages. Okay. I think you need something bigger than yourself, and that can be your family, easy step, bigger than yourself, to throw yourself at headlong.
In service.
And I've tried to be a selfish person, and I've tried to live like that, and it's empty. And you end up hollow in the dark alone. It doesn't jive. And I've certainly been of service to people who didn't deserve it, and I've been misused and abused. But that didn't make me evil, that made them evil. Okay. Me still being of service in the meantime was still the righteous thing to do.
Find a way to be of service. It's interesting you say the service, the kids helping and asking them. I'm reading a book right now called Hunt, Gather, Parent. I can't remember the author's name. But early on, she's going to these basically hunter-gatherer societies, civilizations, and learning from the parenting there. She said basically the Western culture, parenting is just hard. We raise our kids and we say, okay, mommy and daddy are going to go do the work. You sit down and watch the show, or you go outside and play. You get out of here while we do all the chores. And that's just not the case in these other societies. And all these parents, they allow their kids to help because they want to help. How many times have your youngest, you go to make breakfast, if he's awake, he's asking to crack those eggs or stir the eggs, and he's going to make a mess. Yep. I know I'm guilty of being like, thank you, sweetheart. Sit over here while I do it.
It's easier to just do it.
It's much easier to do it yourself in the short term. In the long term, if you allow them to make the mess and you allow them to help and they have been of service and the service has been meaningful, meaning not making a job for them. Daddy's going to make eggs. You go sort these pieces of paper that I'm about to throw away. That they know when it's not contributing to the household, right? So when you say of service, I immediately went to that idea of contributing to the household. I really do. I'm still reading the book, but at this point, I'm already convinced that I have not engaged all of my kids in meaningful service or meaningful chores that contribute to the household. I think we've done it by accident in some ways, but reading this, I'm like, I missed the boat. We have a 5-year-old, so even since reading this, I've already given her jobs, and I've already seen how it lights her up to do a job. The other day, I asked her to sweep some stuff, and usually what I would have done is I would have gone and grabbed the broom. I would have swept it up. I would have asked her to hold the dustpan just long enough for me to not get enough. I would have taken it out of her hands. I would have swept it. I would have thrown it away because it's just easier. But I was like, hey, do you know where the broom is? She said, yes, Daddy. I was like, go get it for us. And she went and got it. And she came back with the biggest smile on her face because she was going to sweep up. And it didn't even really matter. It took 4 times as long.
You just empowered her.
Yeah, but she was of service. And I think that's getting to what you're saying.
It does for kids to be of service. It does something to humans to help out, to be useful.
Have contributed, have helped.
Yeah. Especially to people that we care about. The fact that people are approval seeking isn't an accident. That's something that's programmed into us. But seeking that approval in the right places is something that's not programmed into us. We'll go seek approval.
We'll get it wherever
we can get it. And so they need it from their support system, from their home. And at least as much as they get in trouble, I'm trying to make sure that we're catching the good.
The manager saying, hey, this guy did a great job.
Jocko talks about leadership, and he talks about leadership in the family. And, it's not comfortable to look at that. Okay, if my kids are misbehaving, where have I misled them? How am I not leading my family the right way? And anybody who understands leadership doesn't get excited about the idea of being in charge. Like, this is going to be a lot, because that's what it is.
Drag.
Yeah, if you're doing it right, it's a lot of work. And I've fallen short so often. It's rough to get up the next day and dust yourself off and say, I'm going to go do better today.
All right, so you've given us 2 good ones. You get be rude on purpose Or don't be rude by accident.
Either one.
I like the don't be rude by accident better than be rude on purpose, because then it's like you're training kids to be rude and be jerks. Find a way to be of service. Do you have a third one that you think, is there something that comes to mind this is pretty important?
A lot of people aren't going to like it, but I think especially our little boys, but maybe even more our young ladies, need to learn to fight. The first time you get punched in the face should not be as a 25-year-old. And you can't go through life being afraid to get punched in the face. You need to be able to stand firm and do the right thing and suffer the consequences. You have to take your licks, I feel like, along the way.
Okay, so I can hear some people, whether they're well-intentioned or poorly intentioned, saying, what do you mean fighting's never the right answer? I can hear that being said. How do you respond to that idea? Because you said sometimes do the right thing and suffer the consequences. Is that how you said it?
Sam Houston, General for Texas, that was his sign-off. Do the right thing and suffer the consequences.
Okay.
And I ended up getting it tattooed. It was my first tattoo right here.
Okay. So what does that mean to you?
Earlier we were talking about social conformity. Is social conformity the right thing?
Yeah. So sometimes maybe it is.
Sometimes.
In some contexts, maybe it is the right thing.
But being able to determine when it's the right thing, when it's not, requires independent thought. And that requires at least a small sense of self-assurance. And like it or not, boxing, karate, Muay Thai, these things not only build some level of fitness and give you mind-body connection, but you can't help but build confidence. I think it was Socrates that said that, and this would be a terrible paraphrase.
Let's butcher it.
Yeah, butcher it. But basically to die without ever seeing the glory of your body, like what your body's actually capable of, is basically a sin. You should
push yourself.
You should push yourself physically at some point in your body. You don't have to do it all the time necessarily, but at some point in your body, or at some point in your life, you should really push your body to the limits and see how much you're capable of. Martial arts is great for that, and it's so much more mental, and it's so much more discipline than people perceive. You're like, oh, fight, you're just a brawler. Brawlers get their butts kicked. Okay, pugilists walk away with their collar still straight. Skill and discipline is important. And fighting, as long as there's evil in the world, there will have to be men willing to stand and fight.
As long as there's evil in the world, there has to be men who are willing to stand and fight. Is that what you said? Okay, so if that is a part of your worldview, if you believe that to your core, then it makes sense why you'd say, learn to fight. Because if there's evil and people have to stand and fight, then you better be one who knows how to fight.
It's part of education.
Yeah.
And when you can look back through European history, and there's stick fighting and sword fighting, there's hand-to-hand combat. Every continent on the planet has you can find a book or a pamphlet from time immemorial of hand-to-hand combat. And it's just, I think it's part of being human. And the better you are at it, the less you have to do it.
I think that's true. That's interesting. I think that's true for a lot, because we're both big guys. I don't know, you probably can't tell in this video, but we're both over 6 feet, not small, petite men. I have noticed that and you've probably experienced this more because of the circumstances you found yourself, but I've noticed that one of two things happens when I walk in a room. Either the guys in the room are sizing me up, and I think this is just something men do. You walk in, you say, okay, if it has to go down, what happens? What's my move?
Right.
And I'm not an aggressive fighter, but it is a natural thing. It's, you walk in a room, you say, okay, I think everything's good. Whoever I'm with my wife. This is a safe place, because if it comes down to it, I can protect her in this scenario, or I can protect the weakest person in the room, or whatever.
Yeah. I
assume you do the same thing.
Yes. I'm conscious of it. I used to hang out with a bunch of guys that were mixed martial arts fighters and stuff like that. And when you go out in public with that group, it's really interesting to see people's reactions and see who gets offended by your existence and stuff like that. Being my size, I don't have the same experience as an average guy has, and I don't know what that would look like.
And you're 6'7", 6'8".
Yeah. So I found that I have a very punchable face at a young age. My mouth says things that are very punch-inducing at times.
Okay, so you found yourself in some fights.
I've certainly found myself being hit in the face, and then it had to become a fight.
Okay.
But
So do you think that's a reason you think it's important? If you're going to be the person who gets punched,
no,
you have to know how to protect yourself?
It's more than that. I went out as a 20-something trying to figure out those things. And I found plenty of other 20-somethings that were willing to help me figure it out. But all that could have been handled before I ever left the house. And any one of those situations on the streets could have been a murder. You hit somebody, they stumble backwards, hit their head on a curb, you're in prison.
Yeah.
But if you have the skills, the skill set, then you're able to avoid that situation almost magically, because it's not, oh, I don't want to get in a fight, I don't want to get hurt. It's like, I don't want to mess this dude up, or I don't want anybody to get hurt. You can rise above to the point where it's not ego and all this stuff, it's reality. And the reality is, when people fight, somebody can get hurt.
Yeah.
For bad.
This is making me think of the distinction people make between weakness and meekness. They say weakness is your inability to fight or inability to affect another person, and meekness is the absolute ability to, but the choice not to, or the self-control to avoid that situation.
He who has a sword knows how to use it, but keeps it sheathed.
So if we teach our boys or girls, if we teach our kids to defend themselves and to not be afraid of the consequences of getting hit, I think is how we kind of start this.
That's physical and mental and emotional. The hits are the hits. And my wife's real good about saying that your body doesn't know that you just got cursed at or whatever. It just knows that you're stressed. And that's a fight or flight response. There we go. Yeah, your body doesn't know the difference. It is a confrontation. You are in a fight. It may be verbal or it may be physical, but you need to be able to have tough conversations. You need to be able to address issues. It's all a conflict. And you can't. Conflict-averse people cause more problems. And it's because they're well-meaning and they don't want to cause a problem. They cause
shake
a
the
problem.
boat.
Yeah.
By not shaking the boat, you create this
You sunk the boat.
Yeah.
No, that's, in my experience, that's what I see. And I've done it too. I had a construction company. I didn't have hard conversations early, and they ended up being really hard conversations later. So I want them to understand fighting, to have that confidence, to have that poise well before they leave my house.
Okay, so I think I'm understanding what you're saying here. I think what you're saying, learn to fight physically, so that's literal, like martial arts training, but not because you'll know how to throw a better punch. It's for all the stuff under it. It's the confidence, it's the poise, it's the body control.
The physicality.
Yeah,
everything.
Okay, so we want to be, don't be rude by accident. We want to find a way to be of service.
And so each one of these, as you're talking about, it's an umbrella in my mind. The being of service, you can be of more service the more stuff you understand. If you understand small engines, if you understand plants, if you understand things, the more you learn, and not just learn like factoids, but like the root of something, real understanding.
Yeah.
Then you have the ability to diagnose. Then you have the ability to figure stuff out. A lot of people are mechanics, and they're not actually automotive technicians. They're not diagnostic technicians. They're parts changers. Anybody can shotgun parts at something, but we need to find the problem. And same thing in medical field. We have siloed medicine now. We need to know what the root cause is. And then we can actually solve the issue. There's not as much of that as there needs to be. The critical thinking, I don't see as much. People very much want to be told what to do. They're not happy to hear you tell them what to do also, but they don't want to take the responsibility to make that decision. They don't want to stand on that decision and be brave. And I don't think that living cowardly is living. And I think it builds a pit of shame inside you.
Living cowardly is not living. You're throwing some bombs on me, man.
Like I told Trip earlier, I've just made a lot of mistakes. I'm not that intelligent at all. I've gotten hit in the head too many times for that. But if you can't learn from mistakes, then you can't learn from anything.
Okay, so what we could take away from this conversation, all of our kids, as fathers, whether we're actively involved in homeschooling or whether we're passively involved in homeschooling, whether our kids are in some kind of hybrid situation or not, ultimately we're responsible for training our kids to do certain things. Some of those things, and there could probably be a list of 75 things that are critical, but 3 of them are: don't be rude on accident, find a way to be of service, and that might include becoming educated in a broad spectrum so that when you find yourself in a situation, you be helpful, and then learn to fight and suffer the consequences. I think that's how'd you say it?
Do the right thing and suffer the consequences.
Do the right thing, suffer the consequences, therefore learn to fight so that you have all these other qualities, like as self-control, control of your body, poise, confidence, all those things wrapped up in it.
And it also teaches you to think through stress. You know, Bella, the dog I got from you, the number one thing that'll drive me crazy about her is sometimes she will get so anxious that she quits thinking. And it's like, Bella, look at me. Like, you know what to do, baby. Like, it's okay.
Yeah.
But she just like freaks out and her brain shuts off. And I've seen that in myself. I've seen that in a lot of...
Do you see it in your kids?
This is going to sound bad, but I'm the only one that I've seen induce that in my kids. Like me getting onto them hard for something they did, and that's the only time I ever see them shut down, and which is a terrible feeling as a parent. But I think it's the reality. As we're raising kids, we have so much power, but it's not in the direct things we do. It's the stuff we don't think about that I think can cause so much damage that we're not even aware if you're not paying attention.
You mentioned earlier, and this may be the final thing we talk about. You mentioned earlier that anyone who knows about leadership doesn't want to take it on because of the pressure or the stuff, right? And in my worldview, I believe that there is a special role for fathers, like in the family unit, whether that's from a religious background or societal background or whatever background, patriarchal, whatever. You mentioned some of the things like how there's a sense of like toxic masculinity because people who weren't acting masculine took the name and sullied it. But this idea of a father's role within a family, particularly with his kids and as in their education, in my worldview, the father has a level of responsibility that's scary. You hear people say things like the buck stops with dad. I'm not trying to use like a phrase, but I think there is something about the responsibility of knowing that your kid is going to leave your home and is going to enter the world. He or she is going to enter the world, and they need to be prepared for some things. And as a father, it falls on our shoulders, I believe, to ensure that they have met a certain level in a bunch of different ways, in a bunch of different capacities of life. Some of the 3 things that you just said, I think, touch on a lot of the important ones. But how do you take, or how do you carry that burden of being a father, burden of being responsible for your kids? What does that mean to you when you hear that?
I think that there's levels to it, right? As a young person, you have a list of thoughts or ideals that is being a father. Go to work, make the money, kill the snake, that kind of thing.
Provider.
Yeah.
Or that term. Yeah.
So
breadwinner or whatever.
Yeah, for me, that was very much like the programming that I had. But in my situation, I'm no longer the breadwinner. My wife makes double what I would make working 80 hours a week. And when we tried to do it in California before we moved to Washington, where she was working, I was working, and our kids were at daycare, supposedly it was a reputable daycare. We were sent there by a friend of ours who's a social worker. We felt really good about it. They were shut down 3 months after we left for somebody touching kids.
Mm.
Okay, so how much money is that worth?
Right.
How much tighter am I willing to live, and for how long, for my kids to be safe? And then if they're at home with me, are they safe? Am I doing everything? Am I checking myself? Am I keeping myself in check to where I'm creating an environment where they can grow? Am I dealing with my demons so that they're not?
Yeah.
And there's a phrase, it's, kids of parents who didn't go to therapy go to therapy.
Kids of parents who didn't go to therapy. Okay.
And
so if parents haven't worked through their crap, kids are going to have to deal with it. And they're going to have to work through it.
And in our generation, you're seeing a lot of people that are being so brave, and they're trying to stop all these toxic family patterns. They're trying to end that generational sin. And I applaud you. I applaud you. There's a lot of us that are trying to fight that, and it's brave, and it's the right thing. But it's hard. And being that generation that's trying to undo stuff, I really hope that our kids have 25% less crap to weed through. I'm hoping that we're able to work through enough of this stuff before they leave the house that they don't waste their 20s trying to figure out how to grow up into a man like I did. I hope that we can be honest with them about our mistakes. Like I said, my mistakes are my only value. My experience is the only thing I have worth something. And with them, I just try to steer them away from my mistakes. They're still going to make mistakes.
Yeah.
But I hope that as a male, that the mistakes that I've made are common enough that I'm covering the bases.
So let me ask you that specifically about sharing and being open with mistakes. This is something I've debated in the past. How do you determine how open, how much you share about the mistakes you've made? Because there's age appropriate things. So how do you strike that balance? Because you got a 15-year-old who's you can probably talk to a little differently than you talk to your 6 and...
I am pretty brutally honest with my 15-year-old. I don't really pull a lot of punches. I am terrified. He is so close to being out of the house. And he may not move out immediately, but he's got that independent nature to him where I feel like the second that he doesn't have to be under our roof, I feel like he's going to be nearby but gone. And I want him to do that. I want him to be able to follow his instincts.
But how do you determine the messy stuff, like what you share about that and what you hold back?
If I'm ashamed of it, I say it.
How do you land in that? How'd you land there?
Being a fighter. If so many people that I fought with, as far as went to a gym and trained with, now they're going through a spiritual awakening or something like that. And every bit of that grit and determination that you need in a cage or an octagon or whatever, you need double or triple that to deal with your own stuff. And if you're not healed, you can't heal. You can't heal others if you're not healed. Hurting people hurt people. For me, I'm wanting to minimize damage. I'm not wanting to tell them a story that's also going to traumatize them. But I need them to get the meat and the potatoes of the gist. And if it's something where since I made that mistake, I've learned more, I've educated myself more, I've seen more to where I'm be like, this is what I did and this would have been way better. Or this is what I did and this is what a lot of other people have done in the same situation, and that's bad too. If I can add more context to it, and it's not just dad screwing up. It's I'm a human and humans screw up. And you're a human and you're going to screw up.
Yeah.
And that's tough too, because I feel like, where we grew up, I don't feel like there was as much grace for children, both time and place.
Yeah.
And as I take my kids around and they're acting in a way that I would consider terrible based on the way I grew up, and people are smiling and they're issuing my children grace, it's a reminder to myself, I'm like, these strangers have grace for my kids. I don't.
Yeah, that goes back to you're saying the father provides and protects, or that's how I heard you say it.
Yeah.
And the protection piece is not just from outside dangers, it's also from yourself. Like how you mentioned that, how am I making home a place that my kids feel safe? And I try to think, so my 13-year-old, he would say that I beat him. I do not beat him. But in the truck, when we're driving somewhere and he makes a joke, he's actually a really funny kid. He'll make a joke and I'll pretend to laugh at it. And I'm sarcastic with him. My wife says I should not tell people that, but we're sarcastic with our kids. So I'll go, and then he'll be like, and he'll think it's funny. But then he'll have a release and I'll just reach over and pop him in the chest. My whole hand hits his whole chest and he goes, and I'm not hurting him, but he says I'm beating him up. Anyway, I say that to say, now if I do that, he winces. And
how's that feel?
There's a couple times I was like, oh no, does he feel safe around me? I know he knows I love him. But the fact that I've done this playful game where I catch him in the chest when he's not noticing it, and then like he'll kind of like wince. It's I don't know if that's the right thing. Maybe the fighting. Maybe it comes to the fighting thing. Maybe
giving
that's
him
a
that
good
reflex.
Thing, but maybe it's a bad thing. I don't know. Yeah.
Dichotomy. That was another word that I learned from Jocko, and it's the toughest thing. We're not trying to be red hot. We're trying to be balanced.
Balanced, yeah.
We're trying to take the deviations to the right and the left and smooth that out and be a consistent a node and
steadfast. That's how I would think.
That's
like,
not
one of my goals is to be steadfast for my kids.
That's not my strong suit. I've been successful by running toward the fringes. I've been successful not because I was better than somebody else, but because I would work longer and harder. I'm gonna destroy my body to be successful.
That's unsustainable.
Yeah, it's absolutely unsustainable. And I had a full mental breakdown at 29. That's not the way to go about it. And so I have to seek that moderation, which is not my strong suit. And so it's just something with my children that I'm super aware of. And I don't want them to be volatile. And I don't want them to be used to volatility. I want them to be able to have that peace that they're familiar with, that they can come back to in themselves.
Creating a peaceful space and teaching them, sort of like the martial arts stuff, teaching them to have kind of a sense of peace when they're heightened arousal in their flight.
For me, calming down when things are calm is still difficult. So I want to make sure that their baseline is down here where mine's up here.
Right.
And so that's really hard to do, to try to project something that I'm not always winning at.
And parenting's hard, dude.
Parenting it's only hard if you care.
Yeah, okay, I'll take that.
It's
if you don't care, it's the easiest thing in the world.
Yeah. Kids raise themselves.
Because I left them alone.
Yeah.
All right, so we covered some somewhat broad topics. I have one more question before I ask that question. To the viewers, to the listeners, I hope that you found something useful here. This bozo telling you how to be a good dad. Yeah, so it seems as parents, we recognize it's hard to be a dad. It's hard to help our kids be prepared to leave the house. It's hard to help our kids be a better version of human than we were. And I think that's most people's goal, is for their kids to have advanced at some point. Something I want to ask everybody that I interview, and I didn't prep you for this, so this is going to be cold. What is one of your favorite memories from childhood? Take your time.
We had horses for a short time, you remember? And just that whole period was so blissful for me. I'd go out and I'd have to get up early and go feed the horses and all that stuff before I caught the bus. But there wasn't a time where I was dealing with that, where we had our little mini farm. And that's probably why we have our little micro farm now, that I wasn't joyful. But yeah, it was the greatest time of my childhood.
Awesome. Well, Tom, thank you so much for sitting with me and talking. Appreciate you. Best of luck with your kids and being a father and all the messy stuff that comes with it.
Appreciate it. Same.